Hello students, here life processes. You have studied all the things of this chapter previously, but now here we will quickly revise all the topics. Okay, so in this lecture we will discuss the basics of the life process and nutrition in plants as well as in humans. Okay, so what is life processes? All the processes which are essential to sustain the life are known as life process. Sustain means to maintain the life. Okay, so what are the life process which we required to sustain or to maintain our life? It may be nutrition, very essential process. Nutrition means uh, the substance which give us energy, so it is very much necessary to maintain our life. Respiration, only taking in food is not sufficient because we can we have to utilize this food, and for the utilization we have to oxidize this food. So respiration is a process through which we oxidize the food material. Transportation, okay, the oxidation is taking place in one part of the body or one part of the cell, but it needs to distribute it in all over the body. So how can we distribute this? With the help of some transport system. Excretion, during all these process various waste materials are also produced in the body. So the removal of waste material, especially the nitrogenous waste, this removal is known as excretion. Okay, so all these processes are very much essential to maintain the life. So here we will discuss the difference between unicellular and multicellular organism, because in the unicellular organism only one cell is present. So for all the life process are taking place in that similar cell. But in case of multicellular animals there are group of cells, group of organs are present, and for each life process there are dedicated or separate organs are present, organ systems are present. So um, let's have a look. First point, in case of a single celled organism no specific organs are taking in food, exchange of gases or the removal of waste may be needed because the entire surface of the organism is in contact with the environment. In multicellular organisms, all the cells may not be directly in contact with the surrounding environment. Thus, simple diffusion will not meet the requirements of the cell. Okay, so in this point, it is said that if there is a single celled organism like the amoeba, all the life process like nutrition, taking in of food, or gaseous exchange means intake of oxygen and release of CO2, and excretion process means removal of nitrogenous waste or egestion process, all these things are easy, and these process occurs through the simple diffusion because the single cell is in direct contact with the environment. But when we talk about a multicellular organism whose body is too much complex, it can so all the cells are not in direct contact with the environment. If we talk about any multicellular organism, every cell cannot be in direct contact with the environment, so they cannot directly diffuse all the things, means food or the gases, they cannot directly diffuse from each and every cell. So they need a specialized organ to do this. Okay, in multicellular organisms, various body parts have specialized in the function they perform, like alimentary canal is present or the digestive system is present for the nutrition purpose, respiratory system is present for the gaseous exchange, transport system is present for circulation, of the food and gases inside the body, as well as waste material also transport, excretion. For excretion, excretory system is present. Okay, so these things are present in the multicellular organism. Now we will talk about nutrition, the first part of this chapter, first life process of this chapter, nutrition. What do you mean by the nutrition? The process by which an organism takes food and utilize it is called nutrition. So need for the nutrition, why organism need it? Organism need the energy to perform various activities. The energy is supplied by the nutrients. Organisms need various raw materials for growth and repair. These raw materials are provided by nutrients. Okay. So what are the nutrients? Nutrients are the material which provide nutrition to the organisms. Okay. So nutrients are of two type, macronutrient and micronutrient. It is based on requirement of our body. If it is required in larger amount, it is known as macronutrient. If the substances are required in a small amount, it is known as micronutrient. Macronutrients include carbohydrate, protein and fat, because in excess, in high amount, we required carbohydrate, protein and fat. But minerals, vitamins, they are required in very less amount. So they are known as micronutrients. Okay. So you understood all the definition, what is nutrition, why we need nutrition, and what is nutrients, and types of nutrients. Mode of nutrition, there are two mode of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic. You know about this. Auto means self, trophic means nutrition. Auto means self, trophic means nutrition. Self nutrition means those organisms which prepare their food by its own are known as autotrophic animals or autotrophic organisms, and it includes plants and some photosynthetic bacteria. Okay. Hetero means different, trophic means nutrition. Different nutrition means those organisms which depend on another organism or organic carbon to take the food are known as heterotrophic organisms. Okay. So we will discuss one by one. First, autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition are of two types, photosynthetic and chemosynthetic. Photosynthetic means for preparation of its own food, organism are depend on light. Photo means light. So photosynthesis, synthesis of food with the help of light. And the second category is chemosynthetic. So chemo means they depend upon chemical for the synthesis of food. Chemosynthetic examples are certain bacteria. Okay. And photosynthetic examples are green plants and certain blue-green algae and certain photosynthetic bacteria. Here we will discuss about only the green plants. The mode of nutrition in which an organism prepare its own food is called autotrophic nutrition. Green plants, blue-green algae follow the autotrophic mode of nutrition. Organisms which carry out the autotrophic nutrition are called autotrophs. For example, green plants. Autotrophic nutrition is fulfilled by the process by which the autotrophs intake CO2 and water and convert these into carbohydrates in the presence of chlorophyll. Sunlight is called photosynthesis. So this is the definition of photosynthesis. Okay. So the green plants require some raw materials which are inorganic in nature. Okay. Along with the sunlight and some pigments to prepare their food. We can understood this thing with the help of an equation which is given below. 6 CO2 plus 12 H2O in the presence of sunlight with the help of pigments, chlorophyll, they prepare their food glucose, C6H12O6. Along with that, in this procedure, oxygen is also evolved. So 6O2 plus some water molecules will be obtained, that is 6H2O. So this is the balanced photosynthetic equation. Nutrition in plants. Green plants prepare their own food. They make food in the presence of sunlight. Sunlight provides energy. Carbon dioxide and water are the raw materials. And chloroplast is the site where food is made. Photosynthesis, the process by which green plants prepare food, is called photosynthesis. During this process, the solar energy is converted into chemical energy and carbohydrates are formed. So, in this line, it is said that solar energy means sunlight is falling on the plant with the help of some pigments like the chlorophyll receive that light. So this light energy is present in the form of photons. Light energy is present in the form of photons. When chlorophyll pigments receive these photons, they have some arrangement, some instrument inside the chlorophyll, due to which chemical energy will be formed, and chemical energy is present in the form of ATP. You know that ATP is the energy molecule of the cell, energy currency of the cell. So it produces ATP. Along with the ATP, some other assimilatory powers will also form, like NADPH2. Okay, we will discuss about this NADPH2 ATP in the higher class, means in your 11th class, but up to 10th it is sufficient to know about this, that light energy is present in the form of photons, H nu. This is called H nu. You studied in the physics. And chlorophyll pigments, there are some instrument due to which this light energy is converted into chemical energy, that is called ATP and NADPH2. Then this energy is utilized for CO2 reduction, and CO2 will reduce into glucose, C6H12O6. Okay, it will form the glucose. So this is the procedure. Green leaves are the main site of the photosynthesis. So whole plant uh, do this photosynthesis. Only the green parts, because in the green parts chlorophyll pigments are present. So only those parts can prepare their food. Green portion of the plants contain pigment, chloroplast. Uh, Chloroplast is the cell organelle. Inside the chloroplast, chlorophyll pigments are present. Okay, so you know about this equation. Raw materials for the photosynthesis, as we know that it is sunlight, chlorophyll pigment to absorb the sunlight, carbon dioxide, it enter through the stomata, and oxygen is released as the byproduct through the stomata on the leaf. Water, okay, water plus dissolved minerals like the nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. are taken up by the roots from the soil. So these are the raw materials which are required for the photosynthesis: sunlight, chlorophyll, CO2 and water. How do raw materials for the photosynthesis become available to the plant? So from where it is obtained? Water is coming from the soil through the xylem tissues in the root and stem. Carbon dioxide coming from the leaves through the stomata. Site of the photosynthesis, it is chloroplast in the leaf. Chloroplast contain chlorophyll pigments. Okay, so the main events of the photosynthesis, as I have discussed: absorption of sunlight by the chlorophyll, then conversion of this light energy into chemical energy, along with that splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, due to which means when this chemical energy is utilized, then reduction of CO2 into carbohydrates, that is glucose, will occur, and oxygen is released by the splitting process. In the second point, the splitting of the water, it will convert the water into hydrogen plus oxygen. Okay, so this oxygen is released as a byproduct, but the main product is carbohydrate. Okay, so uh, in the higher class you will know in very much detail the events of the photosynthesis. The first two event, absorption of light and conversion of light into chemical energy, along with that water splitting. These process, upper 2 point, comes under light reaction. Okay, and when from the light reaction ATP energy is obtained, this energy is utilized to perform second step of the photosynthesis, and that is called dark reaction. So third point is the dark reaction, that is reduction of CO2 to carbohydrate. Okay, first is light reaction, and first and second point comes under light reaction, third point comes under dark reaction. So these two steps are taking place normally in the photosynthesis process, but these things, it is not necessary to perform in sequential manner. Means first light energy, first light reaction, then dark reaction will be happen. It is not always necessary, because when we saw when we see in the desert plant, in the desert the condition is different, because stomata, you know about the stomata, we will discuss later. Stomata are the sites from where transpiration is taking place, gases exchange are taking place. So in the desert, you know, very hot conditions are there. Normally during the day stomata are open. If stomata are open, then water loss will be there through the transpiration, as well as gaseous exchange will taking place, due to which CO2 will come in through the stomata and water will release out. If the condition is normal, then no problem. But in the desert, where so much condition is so much harsh, so hot is there, so if during the daytime stomata will remain open, then the water will continuously release out and plant will be wilt or destroyed, so that the stomata remain closed during the day in case of desert plant. If the stomata remain closed, then gaseous exchange will also not taking place. Okay, so in the night, when the normal temperature becomes normal, then stomata will open. So in case of desert plant, in the night the CO2 is absorbed, CO2 is taking in through the stomata. So the process which is in the third step, here you can see absorb a reduction of CO2 into carbohydrate. So in the night time they receive the carbon dioxide, but because there is no light energy, so they fix the CO2 in another intermediate form. For example, it will react with the water to form carbonic acid, or other type of acid. We will discuss in the 11th class how many type of acids will be formed. These are the intermediate, and in the next day when stomata will be closed but light energy is present, then the light reaction will taking place and chemical energy will be formed. That energy now utilized to reduce the intermediate form of CO2, again converted into CO2, and then reduction into carbohydrate will taking place. Okay, so in case of desert plant, because of the different condition, the steps of the photosynthesis will not follow the normal um, type of photosynthesis. So these steps may be not necessary to occur in sequential manner. I hope you understood the things. Stomata, these are the tiny pores present on the epidermis of the leaf or stem, through which gases exchange and transpiration occurs. Function of stomata, you know, gases exchange oxygen and CO2, and losses a large amount of water or water vapor through the transpiration. So you can look at the diagrams. First one, this is stomata, this is open stomata, and this is closed stomata. So stomata is formed by the guard cells. You can see this guard cells. It is bean shape or kidney shape guard cells. Okay, and in the guard cells, chloroplast are also present. So it is also green in color, and nucleus is present. Okay, and in the mid part, in the middle, you can see the stomatal aperture. Through this aperture, gaseous exchange and water loss is taking place. Towards the periphery, means towards the outer side of the guard cells, some helping cells are present known as subsidiary cells. Okay, in the open stomata, you can see the guard cells are turgid. Turgid means swell. They swell. If they swell, then the stomatal pore will open. Okay, so how it becomes turgid? Because from the helping cells, from the outside cells, the water comes inside the guard cells, and when guard cell is filled with water, they become turgid, means they swell, and when they swell, the stomatal opening will be open, and when it is open, then gaseous exchange as well as transpiration will taking place. But when the water comes out from the guard cells and filled into the nearby subsidiary cells, nearby helping cell, then it becomes shrink, or for another term is flaccid. And if the guard cells are flaccid, then the stomatal pore will closed. So here the closing is not proper in this diagram, but it completely closed, due to which gaseous exchange and transpiration cannot taking place. Okay, so where these stomata are present, these are present in the leaf, upper and lower side of the leaf. So first we have to look at the anatomy or the detailed structure of the leaf to understood where these stomata are present. So here in this diagram you can see the leaf. Okay, if this is a leaf, so the center, if this is a leaf, okay, this mid line is known as midrib, means through this midrib xylem and phloem is passes, and some lateral veins are arises from the midrib. So lateral veins also contain xylem and phloem for the transportation of food and water. Okay, and this whole structure is known as leaf blade or leaf lamina. Leaf blade or leaf lamina, this is green structure. And when we look a small transverse section of the leaf, then we can observe this anatomy, means the tissue arrangement. So uh, from the upper part towards the lower part, uh, on the leaf, when you see a leaf anatomy in its thickness, then you can observe the upper epidermis and lower epidermis towards the lower side. Upper epidermis is covered with the help of cuticle, as well as lower epidermis is also covered by the cuticle. Cuticle means a waxy layer, but the lower layer is not so much continuous with the this waxy layer, because of the presence of large amount of stomata. Where stomata are absent, their cuticle lining is also absent. Okay, so you can see in this diagram, this is epidermal layers. Okay, epidermis, along with that waxy cuticle is present, and towards the lower epidermis you can see there is interruption of this stomata. Stomata is formed by the two guard cells. You can see in this diagram the two guard cells, and opening is present. Okay, so in between the upper and lower epidermis, the tissues which are present are known as mesophyll cells. In this region, the all the tissues which are present are known as mesophyll cells except xylem and phloem. If you look in this part, the xylem and phloem will be there due to the presence of midrib, but in rest of the parts, like in this part, you stomata, oh sorry, xylem and phloem is not seen, okay. And, but the mesophyll cells are appearing here. There are two type of mesophyll cells. Towards the upper epidermis you can see the elongated cells, pillar like cells. These are known as palisade parenchyma. And towards the lower side you can see the circular or spherical shaped cells. These are known as spongy parenchyma. Why they are called mesophyll cells? Meso means mid, phill means leaf. So these cells are present in mid. Mid means in between upper and lower epidermis. Therefore, it is called mesophyll cells. And mesophyll cells are the main cells where photosynthesis is taking place, because in these cells large amount of chloroplast are present. Okay. So you can see in these diagrams, like in the palisade parenchyma, you can see in the mid large vacuole is present, and around the vacuole so many chloroplasts are present. Similarly, in the spongy parenchyma, in the middle of each cell, large central vacuole is present, and around that chloroplasts are present. Spongy cells are uh, contain large air spaces. Okay, so can you tell in which cell of the mesophyll large amount of chloroplast is present? Is it palisade or spongy? So it is palisade because it is elongated large cells, but spongy are small cells. So large amount of chloroplast is present in the palisade parenchyma. Okay, I hope you understood the anatomy of the leaf. So we will move forward. So this is all about the autotrophic mode of nutrition. Now we will discuss about the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Hetero means different, trophic means nutrition, different type of nutrition. So these are the organism which depend on other organism, or you can say they take the organic carbon from the other sources. They do not prepare their own food. So definition is the mode of nutrition in which an organism take food from another organism is called heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition can be further divided as saprophytic nutrition, holozoic nutrition, parasitic nutrition. What are these type of nutrition? You must know. Saprophytic, when organism feed on dead and decaying organic matter, then it is known as saprophytic. So it includes fungi, yeast, molds. Okay, yeast and molds are comes under fungi kingdom. So sapro means they absorb the food. These organisms release enzymes from their body to the to outer environment where dead and decaying materials are present. When they digest outside the body, then they absorb it. Therefore it is known as saprophytic nutrition. Okay, the next one is holozoic nutrition. Holo means complete, zoic means animal. So holozoic nutrition means complete animal like nutrition. This nutrition is present in humans, in all the animals. Like amoeba means unicellular, as well as humans like multicellular organisms. Okay. So what is the characteristic of holozoic nutrition, complete animal like nutrition? 5 steps. 5 steps are taking place in the holozoic nutrition, and that is, first step is ingestion. Ingestion means taking in of food. Second step is digestion, means the ingested food going to going to break down into smaller pieces, as well as with the help of several enzymes, they break down into smaller substances. Okay. And third step is absorption. When the food particles are get digested into its simpler form, then it will be absorbed. It will be absorbed in the through the blood, and okay, and distributed to the each and every cell of the body. Fourth step is assimilation. Assimilation means when the food is absorbed and through the transportation system it is reached to each and every cell. Then in every cell it is utilized for oxidation. When oxidation is taking place, then you will get the energy. Okay, means that is called cellular respiration. Assimilation is actually cellular respiration, where the absorbed food get oxidized to take energy from it. And the fifth one step is egestion, means the food material which is not digested, which is undigested, it will release out from the body. That is called egestion. Okay, so the five steps are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. So all these steps are comes under holozoic nutrition. So these are performed in amoeba as well as in paramecium and in humans also, and other animals like cow, goats, buffalo. In all organisms this nutrition is taking place. Third type of nutrition is parasitic. Parasitic means when the organism feed on other living organism. For example, Cuscuta, Amarbale. This is the example of a plant. It is plant, but it remain attached with the another plant and derive their nutrition. Okay, so it do not involve in preparation of food. They always derive the nutrition from the other plants on which it is present. Ectoparasite. Ticks, lice, these are also the ectoparasite. These are present on the body of the animal. And tapeworm, liver fluke, these are the internal parasite. Okay, so endoparasites, they present inside the body and derive their nutrition from the organisms. The steps of holozoic nutrition I have discussed: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. From here you can see the one line definition of each and every steps. Okay, here we can see how the amoeba taking its nutrition and how the paramecium is taking its nutrition. So in the group of first line, you can see all the steps of taking food by the amoeba. A, this is ingestion. They prepare the pseudopodia to taking in the food particle which is present outside. B, forming food vacuole. The pseudopodia get enclosed the food particle, so the enclosed region becomes food vacuole. C, digestion. When it encloses completely, then they release certain enzymes in this food vacuole. Okay, and it will digest it. D, absorption. The digested food get absorbed in the cell. E, assimilation. The absorbed food going to oxidation to taking the energy in the form of ATP. And F part, the food which is not digested, it will eject outside. Okay, again by forming pseudopodial structures. So in the amoeba you can see there is no any specialized organ for taking in food or release out the food. It is not necessary to having the multicellular organism for fixed position of uh, mouth and anus. In amoeba, no fixed part for the ingestion and egestion because its structure itself is not fixed. It continuously making pseudopodia, so it is its structure is not determinate or not fixed. You can see in the paramecium, it is also unicellular organism, but it has fixed mouth part and fixed anus part. Not actually a mouth and not actual anus, but the region from where the food will come in and the undigested food will go out is fixed. This is paramecium. And you can see this part, this is oral groove. The cilia which are present around the oral groove will push the food which is present in the water stream, and that food is pushed by the cilium into here, which is cytopharynx. It act as mouth. So you can see the food is come inside, and here it forms the vacuole, and in the vacuole it release certain enzymes, and then this vacuole continuously circulate inside the cell. It continuously circulate in whole cytoplasm, so that absorbed food, so that continuously food is digested as well as absorbed, and absorbed food get assimilate. And when this vacuole contain only the undigested food, then cytopyge, it act as cell anus, cellular anus. This point is also fixed, and from this point it releases all the waste materials. Okay, so cytopyge and cytopharynx. Cytopharynx is act as cellular mouth, cytopyge it act as cellular anus, and its position are remain fixed whether it is unicellular organism. But in case of amoeba, because its structure, its shape is not fixed, so the anus and the mouth part is also not fixed. This is the only the difference, but rest of the things are same. Means all the 5 steps of the holozoic nutrition are same in both the cases. Okay, now we will discuss about the human digestive system. Okay, this video is little longer. If you are not able to read it continuously, then take a break and then continue. But I have to make you teaching. Okay, the human digestive system comprises of alimentary canal and associated digestive glands. Alimentary canal, it comprises, means it starts from the mouth and ends at the anus. It is long tube like structure, alimentary canal. And in this tube, the parts, various parts are mouth, after mouth esophagus, after esophagus stomach, after stomach small intestine, after small intestine large intestine, and after the large intestine anus is present. Associated glands means are the glands which secrete some enzymes or some other substances which helps in digestion. For example, salivary gland, liver and pancreas. Salivary gland is present in the buccal cavity or the mouth. Liver, you can see in the diagram in the abdominal column towards the right side. It is liver. And liver, one point you have to remember, the largest gland of the body is liver. Okay, pancreas, you can see in the diagram, pancreas. So this is the whole structure of alimentary canal. You can see the buccal cavity, mouth. Okay, in your mouth, in the mirror you can see your teeth, tongue. Okay, and rest things are also present there, uh, but for that we will discuss in the 11th class. After the mouth, the long tube-like structure is present, that is esophagus. After the esophagus, esophagus is start from this mouth region, the last part of the mouth, and it continues in the thoracic cavity, means chest part. And this diagram, this line is known as diaphragm. It pierces the diaphragm and comes into the abdominal chamber. So in the abdominal chamber, towards the left side, you can see the stomach. Stomach is like this, small J shape, like this, small J shape structure. After that, you can see the small intestine, which is longest part of the alimentary canal. After that, the large intestine is connected, means this stomach is continuous in this small intestine, and then it opens into large intestine. Okay, large intestine has three parts: cecum, this is small part, cecum, then this long tube is known as colon, and the last part is known as rectum. Okay, after that, anus is present. In the large intestine, vestigial organ appendix is present. Okay, vestigial means it is now not much developed, it is reduced in case of humans, but it is very much developed in case of herbivores, means the organisms which feed on grasses. So we cannot eat grass, or because we cannot digest the cellulose, but in the herbivores this appendix is very much developed, their cellulose digesting microorganisms are present, so they can digest it. Okay, and liver, this is the liver. The liver is triangular in shape, like this type. Okay, liver is like this. It is present towards the right side in the upper abdominal column. Okay, and it also contain it is divided into two parts, 1 and 2, and one bile duct and gallbladder is present. Gallbladder stores the bile, and through the bile duct, this bile release into the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine. And with the same, means with the same opening of the bile duct, pancreas is also open. This is the pancreas, it also opens into this small intestine part, first part of the small intestine. Okay, so this is alimentary canal of the humans. So here one by one we will discuss what are the things taking place in various parts. First is mouth. Here intake is taking place. Intake means by that 5 steps of the holozoic nutrition. First is ingestion, so mouth, intake of whole food. In the mouth, teeth is present. Teeth is utilized for chewing and grinding of the food. Then tongue in between the teeth, tongue is present. Tongue helps in rolling and tasting of the food because of the presence of some taste buds. Rolling of the food, it move the foods and helps in crushing by the teeth. Okay, salivary glands. In the buccal cavity, there are 3 pairs of salivary glands are present. We will discuss about this in the 11th class. Parotid, submaxillary and sublingual. Just you know the name, but not need to go so deep. Salivary gland, um, you can see here swallowing, pushing down of the food, secrete saliva, mucus. All these things are taking place in the buccal cavity. Okay, after In the buccal cavity, first you intake the food, then with the help of teeth you chewed and grind the food, with the help of tongue rolling of the food, and the taste buds which are present on the tongue, you take the tastes how it is, and then swallow or pushing down of the food. Along with that food, now the food is somewhat wet. Wet is because of saliva. Your salivary gland secrete the saliva, so the food which you are continuously crushing or grinding with the help of teeth, uh, it also going to wet due to the saliva and mucus. Both the things are secreted from salivary gland, saliva and mucus. So the first digestion is taking place in the buccal cavity, as your food contain carbohydrate, fat and protein which are need to be digested, because these are the complex molecules, complex macromolecules. Vitamin, minerals and water, they do not need to be digested because it is already present in its simpler form. These are things get absorbed directly, but these three things you have to digest. Therefore it is known as macromolecule, large size molecule. Requirement is high as well as it is larger in or complex in structure. So starch, which is a carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate, its simplest form is glucose, fructose. Okay, so you have to digest up to glucose, fructose. Here it is so much complex structure, that is starch is present in your mouth. Out of these three macromolecules, only starch, only carbohydrate is going to digest, because in your saliva only one enzyme is present, that is called salivary amylase. And salivary amylase is able to digest starch and convert this starch into a dimer form of glucose, that is called maltose. Okay, means it is disaccharide. Starch is polysaccharide, complex, and glucose is monosaccharide. Okay, very simplest form. Here it is not too much simple, one step behind the simplest form, that is maltose. This is disaccharide. Okay, so it will further going to digest to convert into simplest form, that is glucose. So have you understood all the things? In your buccal cavity only one thing is digested, that is starch, with the help of salivary amylase, and conversion of starch into maltose is taking place in the buccal cavity. After that, esophagus is present, taking food from the mouth to the stomach, the long tube like structure. In your whole alimentary canal, starting from the pharynx, or you can see the this time you can see the esophagus, a movement, continuous movement is taking place in the forward direction. Means continuously contraction and relaxation, contraction and relaxation, with very small rate, with a slow rate. This contraction relaxation is known as peristaltic movement. It helps in continuous flow of the food in the forward direction. So it taking place starting from the esophagus till the last part of the alimentary canal. This peristaltic movement continues. Okay, but in case of esophagus there is no digestive enzymes, so because no digestive gland is present there, so no digestion is taking place in the esophagus. Okay, so here the definition of peristaltic movement is written, rhythmic contraction. This contraction action occurs in a rhythm. So rhythmic contraction of muscle of the lining of the alimentary canal to push the food forward. Okay, next is stomach. Stomach is a bag-like organ, highly muscular wall, Stomach helps in churning of the food. Churning means uh, uh, it, it continuously rotate and grinded also in the stomach. The wall of the stomach secrete HCl, hydrochloric acid. There are various functions of this acid in the stomach. One function is HCl because it is acid, so it can kill the germs which may be present in the food. You taking in food may contain various types of germs. So if it enters into your mouth or in your body through the food, then what can you do? So there is arrangement, that is HCl in your stomach. Moreover, it makes the medium inside the stomach is acidic. The acidic medium is necessary for the gastric enzymes to work. In your stomach, the inner lining of the stomach contains some digestive glands. That glands are present inside the stomach, so it is known as gastric uh, enzymes, or you can say it the um, gastric glands. Gastric term is used for stomach. Gastric term is used for stomach. So all the enzymes which are secreted by the stomach or the glands of the stomach will known as gastric enzymes. There is a condition to work for the gastric enzymes. They can work only in the acidic medium. So from where the condition will be acidic, this HCl, it helps in making the condition acidic. So enzymes which are released in the stomach are normal, but they only activates in the acidic condition. So HCl is has also the function of activation of the gastric enzyme. Okay, the enzyme pepsin, which is secreted in the stomach, does partial digestion of protein. Protein is partially digested here with the help of pepsin enzyme. Mucus is also secreted by the wall of the stomach, saves the inner lining of the stomach from getting damaged from HCl, hydrochloric acid. Can you imagine in your stomach acid? Acid is so much dangerous. It can digest the body parts, but you continuously secreting the HCl. Okay, so what is the arrangement that your stomach or of any person's stomach is not going to be burning, because along with the HCl, stomach lining also secreted mucus. This mucus forms the thick lining inside the stomach so that HCl cannot react. Okay, but sometimes acidity is taking place, because when large amount of HCl is released, it flow upward up to your esophagus. Then the condition is acidity. Then you will feel how the HCl is can work. Okay, in the lower part you can see the gastric glands secrete gastric juices or the stomach enzymes. So there are three things which are secreted by your stomach. One is pepsin enzyme, which break down the protein. For the digestion of protein, pepsin is utilized. HCl to make the medium acidic, and mucus to protect the lining of the stomach. Okay, so pepsin is released, but it is released in the form of pepsinogen, which is inactive form. It becomes active with the help of HCl, means by acidic medium. Then it is known as pepsin, and then pepsin digests the protein. So some amount of starch is digested in your mouth, some amount of protein digested in your stomach. Now the small intestine is going to come. So rest parts or the complete digestion is will be taking place in the small intestine. Small intestine is highly coiled tube-like structure. Small intestine is longer than the large intestine, but its lumen is smaller. Lumen means this thing. If this is a long tube-like structure, this is the lumen of. Lumen means this hollow space. This is of a small intestine, and this is of large intestine. The lumen is thicker in large intestine, but the length of a small intestine is very much as compared to the large intestine. So it is known as large with respect to its lumen, and it is known as a small again with respect to its lumen, small lumen, but length is longest. Even in case of alimentary canal, the longest part is small intestine. Okay, again the small intestine is divided into three parts. Okay, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. After the stomach, you can see in the diagram a small C structure is present. This is called duodenum. This is the main part of the small intestine and smallest part of the small intestine, because liver and pancreas both opens into the duodenum, and all the digestion are taking place in the duodenum only. But the jejunum, which is so much longer part, after that ileum, the longest part of the small intestine, in these parts no digestion is taking place, only absorption is taking place, only absorption. So the final digestion is taking place in the duodenum, and in the duodenum the final digestion means carbohydrate, fat, protein, all the things will be digested here. Okay, so and ileum is the longest part of the small intestine. Okay, and this whole part is surrounded by the large intestine, you can see in the diagram. Now liver is the largest organ of the human body. The liver manufactures bile, which gets stored in the gallbladder. From the gallbladder, bile is released as and when required. Pancreas is situated below the stomach. It secretes pancreatic juice, which contain many digestive enzymes. Okay, here. So you can see the liver. Here gallbladder is present. So the cells of the liver, they secrete the bile, but it is stored into the gallbladder, and through the bile duct it releases into the duodenum, which I have told you it's C-shaped organ. And from here the pancreas is also connected. This is the pancreas. They also secrete pancreatic juices or the pancreatic enzymes, and this also release into the duodenum. So all the secretions comes into the duodenum. Okay, one more thing. After the stomach, you have seen this is the esophagus, then stomach. Through this stomach, now small intestine is continue. This part is known as pyloric sphincter. This from this sphincter, because you know the food here is going to churning. After churning, it comes into the small intestine, but it not comes here in the bulk. It very small amount of food is uh, coming into the small intestine because of this sphincter. So small amount is continuously coming in. This sphincter helps in taking only the small part of the food, because if bulk food is will come, then it is difficult to digest. And this sphincter, this door is known as pyloric sphincter. Okay, so at every organ, at at the junction of every organ there is a sphincter is present. One sphincter is present in between the esophagus and stomach, similarly in between the stomach and small intestine. And when this food will enter into the large intestine, there again a sphincter will be present known as ileocecal sphincter. Okay, so sphincters are also are present at every junction of two organs and helps in releasing the food with small amounts. Okay, so this is a flow chart through which you can understood all the things. Small intestine, intestinal enzyme. So intestinal enzyme is known as succus entericus, and succus entericus means it contain all type of digestive juices. It can digest carbohydrate, it can digest fat, it can digest protein into its simplest form. The simplest form of carbohydrate is glucose, simplest form of fat is fatty acid and glycerol, simplest form of protein is amino acid. Okay, so all these things going to digest into the duodenum part of the small intestine. Then okay, you understood this part, the simplest forms. Now small intestine also contain villi which helps in absorption of the food into the blood. I will make you understand the things. Okay, so wait. Small intestine receive the secretion from, small intestine means the that duodenum part receive the secretion from the bile duct and from the pancreatic duct. Okay, so it contain the secretions from the liver as well as from the pancreas. From the liver bile is secreted. Bile, there are certain functions of the bile. One function is bile contains some bile salts. Actually, this bile juice contains two things. One is bile salt and there is bile pigment. Bile salts. The name of the bile salts are sodium glycocholate, sodium taurocolate, and sodium bicarbonate. So these three salts are present. These salts, the first purpose of these salts is to neutralize the acidic food, because you know food is coming from the stomach. And stomach, due to the HCl, the food becomes acidic. Okay, but the enzymes which are present in the small intestine, they can work in alkaline condition, means basic condition. So we have to first neutralize the food and alkaline the food. So for that purpose bile salts first mix with the food which is coming from the stomach into the duodenum. This bile mixes with the food and neutralize the acidic condition. After that food becomes alkaline. Okay, so that all the enzymes of the intestine and pancreas can work on it. This is the one function of the bile salt. The next function of the bile salt is uh, emulsification of the fat, because fat always present in large globules, large size. So emulsification action, due to the emulsification, this large fat going to break down into small fat molecules. So it simply convert the large size of the fat into smaller globule form, smaller size of the fats. This process known as emulsification. Okay, so bile juice which contain two things, bile salt and bile pigment. The bile salt has two function. One is neutralization of the food, second is emulsification of the fat. Okay, and bile pigment, it provide uh, color to the food which is which is going to digest and will remain undigested both. Okay, you can see the color of stool or feces. This that color is due to this bile pigment, because RBC cells etc. Are after completing its life cycle going to break down into the liver as well as in spleen. So that color will mix with the food. Okay, so bile pigments are of two type, bilirubin, biliverdin, and they add the color to the food here. Okay, so you understood the things about the bile. Now we will discuss about the pancreas. Pancreas release pancreatic juice which contain enzymes, three enzymes actually. This pancreatic juice also contain pancreatic amylase. In mouth you have listened about uh, amylase, but that was salivary amylase, that was also known as ptyalin. Here pancreatic amylase helps in the digestion of carbohydrate. Another enzyme is trypsin. This trypsin act in basic condition and convert protein into peptones. Peptones means smaller chain of amino acid. And finally, the small intestine convert these peptones into amino acid. Lipase. Lipase means lipid digesting enzyme. It convert fat, oils, and other lipids into fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, so you can see all the type of digestion here. Okay, so I have discussed all the things which are written here in that diagram. Okay, no digestion taking place in jejunum and ileum. It utilize only for the absorption. Okay, one more thing, villi, which was written there. Villi, what is villi? Small intestine, what is villi? So you can see here, this is the small intestine. This is duodenum part, then jejunum part, then ileum part. When you look this at the small section from inside, the small intestine is like this. Okay, um, from outside you cannot see the actual thing, but when you see the inside, from the inside, the small intestine contain this type of finger like structures. Okay, like this is known as villi. Okay, and this villi increases the surface area, and when surface area is increased, then absorption will also increase. Means if this is the small intestine, this is the surface area, then what the thing will here, this villi is also supplied with blood vessels. Here just suppose this is the blood vessels. So if villi were not present, if villi are not present, then what can be happen? Just suppose this is the small intestine, no villi is there, then the blood vessel is only like this. So how much absorption can be taking place? Very little amount. From here to into the blood vessels, very little amount can be absorbed. But when the surface area is so much or sufficient, then you can see the after digestion absorption is continuously increases. This blood vessel is all around the small intestine for absorption of the digested food and water and minerals. Okay, so these are the finger like projections in the small intestine. Okay, we have discussed all the things. Now the large intestine, no digestion is taking place in the large intestine, as well as no absorption of food is taking place in the large intestine. So what is the use of the large intestine? See here, large intestine is smaller than small intestine. Large undigested food goes into large intestine. Undigested food goes into the large intestine. Some water and salts are absorbed by the wall of the large intestine. After that, undigested food goes to the rectum. from where it is expelled out through the anus. Means in case of large intestine, only water and few minerals are absorbed, and maximum water is absorbed in the large intestine. Okay, and large intestine again contain three parts: cecum, colon, and rectum. After the rectum, anus is present. Anus also contain sphincter, two pair of sphincter. Okay, a large intestine absorb excess of water. Rest of the material is removed from the body via anus. That is called egestion. Okay, so this is complete process of the human digestion. Thank you, class.